What I've gathered from everything I've learned in life so far is that we do, in fact, as hard as it is to accept, live in a scam world, a scam existence. And what I mean by that, and I brought this up in other videos too, but I went from all this spirituality, all kinds of ideologies, and this is what I've come to, and I've kind of been here the last few years, because in spite of, and it works for some people, but not for all people, especially people who are really seekers of the truth and will do whatever it takes to find the truth, and that was me. It started with Christianity, of all things, and then when they couldn't explain the contradictions and the hypocrisy of the Old Testament God, or demiurge, as I like to say, because I think the Gnostics were pretty spot on. They identified it early. But what we live in is a type of scam simulation where whatever beings are the ones in charge, the rulers, the owners, or the ones that just hijacked this place, or however all that happened, they try to sell this place to us like a school, like we're gonna learn all this stuff in this convoluted thing, all these mistakes, we're gonna get addicted to stuff, have to break our addictions, but we're gonna learn all these things. Well, this is not the kind of way you want to learn. And sorry if the camera's shaky, I guess I need to get a new camera holder. But I think we should be talking about this, and no one really talks about it. It's a very fringe thing. I've found a few people on the internet and the Jeff Mara podcast, or a few people will talk about it, who've astral traveled and met these beings. I've met some non-corporeal beings, but I haven't really astral traveled, at least that I remember or can control. And it's also very interesting in the comment section of those videos, because there's lots of stories people have that all resonate with the same congruency of our disposition in this reality. And a lot of it, alright, so back to the scam thing, it's like they try to make it sound good and sell it to us, but what's really going on here is we aren't really learning the things we want to learn. It's the same forgetting and then having to go through all the turmoil again, all the same heartbreak, the same shit we've been through before, so many iterations of it. And that's why so many people here are crazy. And then they wipe our memory and it happens all over again. And even in this life, we forget. Even in this life. In a single lifetime is what I'm saying. Not even multiple lifetimes and having our memory completely erased from our last lifetime. Because this place would be a lot more to explore. And because it's so convoluted and we forget so much, they can flip the script on us and elicit all these emotions. And I forgot the main thing I was going to say. It's not easy to talk about this stuff. It's almost like as I'm talking, I'm being blocked. There's a lot of blocking going on as far as our psychic space and being able to even talk about these things. And there's different modalities of it. These beings will get us caught up in the polarities of religious and political stuff, conspiracy stuff, spiritual, whatever, new age stuff, and it's all kind of polarized, but hardly anyone is talking about like either the demiurge or them being archons, being manipulators, being very inadequate mentors, to say the least. And at best, this place is just a joke. It's just a hoax at best. I follow another guy on YouTube that is very much in this line of thinking. and they're able to just keep feeding off of our negative energy. And if we forget, we can't really make sense of this as a whole, and come together as a whole, because we have so much potential and so much energy, so much creative energy. It's like we have to be blocked and quarantined in order for it to fit into their battery or whatever they use us for. Our imagination is so much more than this. Every once in a blue moon, we get a really cool dream, right? But the rest of the time, we forget our dreams, or they're lame. Our dreams could be cool movies every night. It's like on Netflix. If you could, it's like decide what dream you're gonna have, or choose your own adventure. That would be cool. There's so much potential that isn't being even tapped into here that we know we have potential of. This is a reality where there's so much intricate beauty and sacred geometry and all that, but then it's so stupid and it's an insipid anathema. It's aggravating. It's perturbating in not a way that I want it to be, or that we would choose it to be perturbating. Maybe some people who are into learning through pain, to me that's poor taste. And maybe I could have an experience or two where I learn through pain so I know what that is, but again and again, that's not what I consent to in this life. If I had a choice, I would be like, I don't want to be through the same internal pains of breakups and things not working out. If things are not going to work out and it's going to change to a different circumstance, I want to just have appreciation that I got that experience, instead of pining over loss or whatever. That's not a tasteful disposition to have, and that's not what I want, but that's what I feel inside. I've worked through traumas, I've worked through pains of the past. I don't want to keep on reworking all that and re-going through all the family trauma and all that. No, that's not what I'm all about. That's not what I'm trying to do here. And I think if a lot of people could care enough to get into that, but people are distracted, and we're distracted, and we don't even have, we as in like the general population, doesn't seem to have a want or like the impetus to really seek out what we're doing here, what this is all about. But clearly they seem to know more about us than we know about, or they know, or we don't know as much about them as they know about us, is what it seems to be. And people who talk to these other beings, guides, overlords, whatever the heck you want to call them, it's like we don't get any like useful information, or we don't get anything, what's the word I'm trying to think of, like we don't get anything, it's like we don't get any answers for anything here outside of what we already know. Like there's Bashar and all that, and it's like love and the new thing. It's like, yeah, we get it, love is great and we like to have more of that, but what is going on? What's with all the manipulation and constant internal turmoil and mental toughness and trauma that everyone goes through? I'm not totally like, okay, maybe if a being really wants to experience what being traumatized is, but it's off the charts here, and I came here to explore and to use my imagination and to not be so restricted and quarantined in this paradigm of insipid, cyclical situations that keep reoccurring. And I think we should be talking about this because we have so much more potential than the same insipid things that happen over and over again in our lives. Like, we have a so much better story as protagonists and writers to create our own storylines, our own adventures, because these are, like, when we incarnate, these are sacred journeys we have, and there's so much more possibilities, and we need to be talking about this. And the more people aware of this, the more we can break out and say, it's like, say to these beings, no, fuck off. I am not, like, you can curse them back. I've even done it in psychedelic states, and it does work, and it really helps to be able to name it. It's like they will eventually bugger off eventually. But it's annoying, and they come back. It's like an infestation. You might get, like, if you ever had fleas, you might get, like, rid of them. But if you have rats with fleas, they're just gonna come back after you bomb your house. And I've actually when I lived in San Francisco, I had a horrible experience with those. But it's kind of like that. They're like parasites that were more powerful then, but there's so many of them. It's like you can exterminate them, but there's fucking hordes of them that come back. And even amongst my friends, like people find my viewpoints interesting, but it's hard to resonate with, because it's a hard thing to accept. It's a shitty thing. Like, it's taken me a long time to come to this point of actually being able to talk about this, and be able to talk about the cringe and all the insipid drama that just continues to happen over and over. So this is something we should be talking about and thinking about as we wield our own sentient autonomy as beings that get to choose and that have free will and that want to try different things and have a choice. And instead of being quarantined in a limited amount of options, like it's like we have in our political scene, it's like, your choice is between Pepsi and Coca-Cola, and it's like, I don't want either of those. I don't like having a choice that's more of an ultimatum. That's like, okay, well, you have a choice, but you can choose between this, and you can choose between this thing you don't want and this other thing you don't want. That's not a choice. And it's important to recognize what is actually something we would choose and what's like a false option of like, no, there's more options than that. So yeah, it's difficult to talk about, it's difficult to accept, and I can tell you right now, I don't accept it. It's unacceptable. It's very unacceptable. And I resolutely choose not to accept it, and I think we all should. And so the more we take a stand and work in our choice as beings, these other beings need to learn to consent to us, because they don't seem to know the intricacies of our abilities. And it's just, it's rather, what's the word? It's like disingenuous in a kind of pejorative way, where it's like being treated like a child after you've already like matured a bit. And speaking of maturity, it's like the pain through the learning through trauma and pain seems like an immature kind of way to continue going. Like, you can experience that a handful of times in different ways, but it needs to like stop. It needs to stop being like that. So I think, yeah, I've said it before, we need to talk about this more. And it's a shame that people aren't enabled to like realize that they're not really having a choice in a lot of things, or have the choices they could have to make their story actually more enriching and interesting. Like, if this was a movie, it would be so boring. I would have turned it off. And like, there's interesting things that happen. There's very interesting things that come about in my life in different ways, but it's so spread out and far in between. Like, I think every day should be fascinating, and that's not too high of an expectation to have. It's like, that's where we're at. If we have incredibly novel stories to unfold that are being like blocked and limited in such a frustrating way, in such an insipid anathema, an anathema as in like a huge distasteful frustration. And I think good aesthetic takes primacy over all these stupid lessons we have to learn, and that's how they sell it. It's like, oh, you're in a life school and stuff, but it's like, I'm not really learning a whole lot of new stuff. What I'm learning is the manipulation that's happening here, and we're fed crap and kept in the dark and abase ourselves, and we wouldn't do that if we actually knew what was going on. We wouldn't actually make this choice had we known. If you actually have eyes to see all the paths, you would choose different ways, and a lot of us would be more enlightened and happy and excited, apart from this kind of false enlightenment that comes through, oh, this political side versus that political side, and having enlightenment like, oh, I'm spiritually connected and all that. And it's like, yeah, we are, but you need to realize the field, the space that we're in, and that all this goes down. So I hope there can be a discussion about that. Unfortunately, my reality seems pretty blocked because, like, these videos, I don't know how much they even get out there. And amongst, even if my video gets sent out to 1,000 people, it'll probably get a couple clicks. And amongst those couple clicks, maybe one or two, someone will actually watch all the way to the end of this. Which, there was maybe a time in my life that I wouldn't have like resonated with what I'm talking about now, but through experience, our experience is the empirical evidence. It's the self-evident, like the most real thing that we can grok out of our experience. So yeah, I don't want to beat this horse to death, but I think we really do need to, I think it's worthwhile to talk about these possibilities and what we can do about it, as far as what our choices really are that maybe we don't know what they are. And I haven't had a sustained, like me personally, I haven't had a sustained portion of my life where I'm like, I'm okay with this. It hasn't been like that, at least for me. And it's like, these beings, they don't talk to me or interact with me at all. And there's a reason for that. Even if I'm dead on, they don't want that. In fact, they don't touch it. They don't even really inhibit me that much, whether they're able to or not. And I do believe we also have beings helping us, so it's not all just evil. But yeah, there's lots to be said on it. I'll pontificate more in new videos, and I'll look forward to hearing any comments if that eventually happens. And I hope more people can make videos like this and be inspired. I've been inspired to for a while, but it's only until recently I thought, probably not going to get a whole lot of views, even though what I'm talking about I feel is very relevant. But I'm kind of in my island of, I'm discovering what I'm discovering, and even if it comes out to be the truth, I'm just kind of stuck in my own bubble. Like, no matter how hard I try to reach out to other beings like me in the world. So anyway, that's it for now.